Whatever. Hey guys, welcome back to the HuntFishTravel Podcast. I have no idea if we're live or not. If we are, hey, welcome. If we aren't, hey, I'm not that much of an idiot. But I would love to welcome back Joe Henry, Executive Director of the Lake of the Wood Tourism. We're going to be talking about some upcoming seminars that he's going to be giving at the Chicagoland Fishing Expo in Chicagoland. Where is that? In Schaumburg? It's in Schaumburg, right, Joe? Yeah, Schaumburg. Well, because there's another one this weekend in Chicago, and I was like, all right, there's the Muskie Expo this weekend. There's the Chicagoland Fishing Expo next weekend in Schaumburg. Boy, Northern Illinois has kind of got it going on for fishing the next couple of weekends. But we don't care about the Muskie Expo right now. All we're talking about is Chicagoland Fishing Expo. And the dates are January 2nd through 25th, 2026. We've got Joe, who's going to be giving seminars Thursday at 4 o'clock. You're not going to want to miss Reading the Water, Where Walleyes Live and Why. Saturday at noon, From Midwest Lakes to the Lake of the Woods, Walleye Tactics that Travel. And Sunday at 11 o'clock, Reading the Water, Where Walleyes Live Again. So Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gary. I tell you, I bet I have a feeling your listeners would love to hear the lead up to this interview. You know, sometimes what happens before the interview after is maybe as interesting as what happens during the interview. But I don't know if it would have been G-rated or not. What do you think?
I think they would have loved it. We probably should have recorded it. I don't know if you still have it queued up. You're welcome to play it.
Well, I don't know if I should or not. You know, this is it's got
you
a couple
bad
words in it, Carrie, and I don't know about your audience.
You should do it. Okay, if you're under the age of 18, close your ears. Okay. If you don't like swear words, close your ears.
Yep. All this is, it's just kind of a little motivational thing that I was kidding around with Carrie. I said, okay, Carrie, if you're not awake right now, let me tell you how to get awake. And this is just a guy that popped up on my TikTok feed. So let's check it out.
Not that one.
Nope,
not that one either. That one.
Still breathing, still wide open.
That's awesome. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Now I'm not ready to roll, baby. I don't know.
Right? Seriously, then this is not the show for you.
So apologize for the language, but I thought that was kind of funny. And certainly with my good friend Carrie, I thought that we both like rock and roll. We're both hard charters. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to share that with her. She's like, share it on the show. Share it on the show. I'm like, are you sure?
I was like, I don't care. My listeners, like I said, okay, everybody who has your ear, you can if you want to.
You can decide to edit that out or not edit that out.
I'm leaving it in. I don't care. I think anybody listening knows that I curse and I love heavy metal and I don't even care. So it's my show. I can do whatever I want. So
I get a kick out of that. I get a kick out of that guy. And Carrie, think about it. You're a hard charging gal, and you have a lot on your plate, and you have a busy schedule too. We're just talking about it, and I just thought that was kind of a fun little motivational thing. Being sensitive to people's stuff, right? But we also have a lot of excuses, and that guy says, "Hey, I don't care what's going on. You freaking get her done."
You are not wrong. And I've seen that guy. I think it's AI or something, but I love it. I don't care. I've seen it before, and every time it comes up, I'm like, fuck yeah, exactly. I was even just talking. So Matthew Crawford, like 2 days ago, I was doing an interview with him, and I even said sometimes half the challenge of getting out on the ice and getting out there sometimes is just conquering the laziness, because I think we all do. Sometimes it's just, I'm exhausted. I've had a long week at work. Whether you have kids or whatever, and you're just tired and it's Saturday morning and you're like, I just kind of want to lay in bed and watch travel videos. And that's the truth.
Well, it's true too. I mean, sometimes by the time you hear about a bite, it's over. You got to go and discover the bite, find the bite. And, maybe you're the one reporting on the bite. I mean, but I think you're right. I think sometimes we just have to get out there. Once we're out there, we feel darn good about it and darn happy we did.
Totally. Yep. Half the battle for me is sometimes getting my ass in the car and going sometimes, because it's a lot of work.
Kind of fun too. Well, Carrie, it's kind of fun talking to you about fishing too, because, you and I actually had a chance to share the boat together recently, when we were pre-fishing for an Aglow conference, Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers. And it was kind of fun because we went to a brand new lake and never been on the lake before. And it was kind of fun breaking it apart. By the end of the day, we found some fish. It's kind of a fun day.
It was. And it was interesting because it was the second year that I had my boat. It was a new lake that I'd never been on before. It was something like 25-mile-an-hour winds or something. Remember, it was so windy. And I was kind of having a hard time keeping the boat steady. I forget what we started out fishing for, but we ended up fishing for perch. And you actually showed me quite a bit on even just how to navigate, how to like manage the boat in strong headwinds, which is something I hadn't. Yeah, I really hadn't had a lot of experience with the smoker craft, in that I don't know, for whatever reason, every day that I had taken it out in southeastern Wisconsin was like a perfect day or whatever. It was rare that I had a chance to take it out in any really kind of crappy weather. And it was really windy and it was hard just keeping it straight. And then you showed me some things, even with the Minn Kota and things that I didn't know about. And it was a really great experience. We caught a bunch of perch and fish and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. So it was a great experience.
It was fun. And that's the old thing too. It's like you don't become a better captain by driving around in calm seas. You become a more experienced captain driving around in rough seas. That's when you learn how to drive your boat and how to navigate properly and stuff. And I think that was part of it. Boat control. I mean, a lot of that's experience too. I mean, I remember a time when I was started fishing tournaments. I remember I was talking to a guy, a former pro angler by the name of Bruce Sampson. Doc Sampson is his name, and he was really good. And he had a similar boat to I did. He had a 20.5-foot crestliner, and I was telling him, I'm like, when I'm pulling spinners, when it's wavy on a big lake, and I'm trying to turn around and follow a contour, I'm having a hard time because my big bow, that wind is blowing my big bow, and my kicker motor in the front can't get the front end over, And he says, what you got to do is you got to drop that trolling motor. And when you drop that trolling motor with remote control, and you have that trolling motor just for steering, then you can have propulsion in the back. Even a little tip like that made me such a better angler. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes people are afraid to, it's not that I have a chip on my shoulder, because I don't feel like I do. I am the first one. It's not that I'm afraid to ask people to show me how to do something, or it's just weird. I'm not like, oh, hey, do you mind if I go out with you so you can show me how to fish? You know what I mean? Like, I've been fishing my whole life, but you don't know what you don't know. And you can always learn something from somebody who's been fishing longer, more, or just has more experience than you. So for you to take the time to show me something like that, and I mean, I can't even go into detail of all the just little intricacies that you actually pointed out, that I was like, I didn't even know to even ask about those things, like with the Minn Kota or whatever.
Well, even to give the listeners some context, we started pitching shorelines with spinner baits and chatter baits and jigs and stuff like that. And we just went to a kind of a river mouth. It was kind of out of the wind a little bit. We thought it'd be good. And we'd never been in a lake. So it was a potential go-to spot based on, what we're looking at on the lake map. And, we weren't getting it done. So what we decided to do is we decided to switch over to crawler harnesses, spinners and crawlers.
Yeah.
And, we kind of showed Carrie that, when I pull those spinners, I pull them with a 2-ounce bouncer. The reason I use a 2-ounce bouncer is because when you use a 2-ounce bottom bouncer, you could be pulling that spinner in 5 feet of water. I always like pulling at a 45-degree angle. For some reason, that angle of the dangle catches you the most fish. But, you could be pulling in 5 feet of water, but if you're dropping off of a break, that 2-ounce bouncer will still be good in 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 feet of water. You can still maintain that 45. So it's a good weight. And the other thing is maintaining that 45-degree angle. And of course, the other thing is using a 2-hook harness and not having that long crawler on there. Because what'll happen is, if you're into some nice perch, as an example, one thing about a crawler harness, you catch everything on it. You catch walleyes, pike, bass, sunfish, perch, crappies, everything hits a crawler harness. So when you're pulling that spinner in that crawler harness, or that crawler, you might have a great big crawler on there. They're going to come by and nip that tail, and they're going to grab that back end of the crawler, and you're not going to catch any fish. So if you just pinch it off a couple inches after that back hook, it's plenty of crawler. You still got a profile that's about that big with your beads and your spinner and your 2-hook harness. And it goes through the water like this with that tail pinched off. You got scent. I mean, it is just so effective. But imagine just a little tip like that, where you're using a technique that you can fish deep and shallow. You can search water. It's an absolute time tested walleye bait, but everything will eat that. It's just, and that's what we did. We were looking just for some fish at that point, and we came across some nice perch, and those perch whacked those harnesses.
They did. We killed it. We caught a ton of fish, and it was super fun. And because I don't know, anytime you have the opportunity to go out with somebody, I feel like you should take advantage. You should never be like, oh, well, I have my own boat and I have all my own stuff and I know what I'm doing. Ha ha ha. You should always take advantage, really.
Well, you also have to be, I think you have to have the right attitude. Like, look at the attitude you have about, hey, I'm always willing to learn, no matter how much I know.
Always.
You know what? I was at an NPAA conference just about a week ago, National Professional Anglers Association. And one of the keynotes was Tom Wynn. Now, Tom Wynn, he's a guy that won the championship the last 2 years for the National Walleye Trail. He won the championship of all these elite anglers 2 years in a row. He's a master at forward-facing sonar. And to watch him give a presentation, I have forward-facing sonar. I use it. And I'll tell you right now, I'm okay at it. Not great at all, but I'm okay. But to watch him, he's spent so many hours looking at that forward-facing sonar, Carrie, that he can look at that screen and he can say, you can tell by the shape of that fish that it's a sheephead. You can tell by the shape of that fish it's a big pike because you can see it's almost invisible in the middle. You can tell by the way it's swimming. You can tell by how fast it's swimming. I mean, he's got it dialed in so he can not only tell what species it is, he can tell how big it is. So that's why, one of the tournaments on Lake of the Woods this summer, using Fish Donkey, catch, record, release app, 5 walleyes for over 60 pounds. That's over a 12-pound average per fish. Now, with that Fish Donkey app, it's a little bit liberal. So really, normally a 30-inch walleye would be about 10 pounds. Well, Fish Donkey might call it 11. There's a little bit of slop with weight, probably legitimate 11-pounders. But why such big weights? It's because these anglers now are using that forward-facing sonar. And instead of having to catch 50 fish and sort through them to get your top 5, they're looking around and maybe catching 8, 9 fish in a day because they know that, that's too small. It's a 25-incher. That's a 24-incher. Ooh, there's the one we're looking at. Let's go after that one. So it's just really changed. But I guess my point is, watching a Tom Wynn, and we have so much to learn, don't we?
Yeah, we really do. I've been trying to, so I joined a bunch of fishing clubs last year. The Wisconsin Fishing Club, there's the Winnebagoland Muskie Clubs. There's like 5 muskie clubs in southeastern Wisconsin. And they have a lot of different speakers. And every time these guys, they come and they speak, and I'm just like blown away at the knowledge bombs that they drop. And I'm just like, I could never in a million years retain all the knowledge that these guys are throwing at us, because there's just so much to learn. And so even, like I said, that Matthew Crawford, we spent an hour talking, and I don't even know how old he is. He can't be more than like 20, 25 or something like that. Ridiculous. He's so young. And the amount of knowledge that this kid has in his head is just astronomical. It's amazing. Some of these guys, they really retain a lot. And it's interesting how some of them are really interesting, like proficient speakers. Like you're a really proficient speaker. Like you do your seminars and they're really engaging and you're very well spoken, where I don't want to do no seminars. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're either talented or you're not when it comes to seminars.
Well, you're doing a podcast. I'd say that you're definitely a good communicator, and you've been doing it for a long time with good success.
That's different. I always tell people it's like we met at a bar and I'm like, oh, you're doing seminars on walleye tactics. Let's chat. Why don't you tell me about it? That's a little different than standing up in front of
too, because,
200, 300, 400 people.
Well, there's different seasons of life too. I mean, honestly, there was a time when I was really, really into the fishing tournaments that, I don't know that I would have shared all these tips and tactics. I mean, I was so competitive. I would have been like, I tell you what, I got a couple things in my back pocket I don't think other people know, and I don't know if I want to share them. But, you get to a point where you're like, you know what? At least I did. I got to a point where, hey, I'm going to share this stuff. I'm going to help other people become good anglers. And if I happen to be fishing against you in a tournament, hey, man, I hope we both do well.
Yeah.
I don't know. They say as they get older, those sharp edges kind of get smoothed out. Maybe that's where I'm at now.
Well, because the odds of you going up against them in a tournament are pretty slim. You know what I mean? Like you could I used to always say, like, I've helped launch, I don't even know how many podcasts. I've assisted people. And I'm like, I don't care. Yes, the average person listens to 5 podcasts. And if mine isn't one of the 5s that you listen to, whatever, because there's 1,000 other people who do put mine in this, one of the 5 slots. It's fine. I don't care. There's just the odds of going head to head with somebody are so slim that sharing that knowledge makes you a better person. And what you put out into the universe, you get back tenfold. So
that's
true.
Good point. And you have done a lot of seminars on how to do a podcast and different things. So consequently, you have touched a lot of people in that regard. It's cool. I think it's neat.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's kind of I think, and that's probably why, like you and I, people like us, we're on boards like the Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers, where we just want to help people be better writers, communicators, podcasters, anything like that. So
I also think it's cool too, rubbing elbows with other professionals. I mean, I think that, that also helps us get better, right? I mean, and I don't know about you, and I'm sure you're the same way. I get juice when I'm learning. If I'm learning, I'm growing. They always say that when you coast, you don't coast uphill, you coast downhill. So you don't want to be coasting.
Knowledge is power.
As they say, sharper than that saw. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Knowledge is power for sure. If I'm stagnant, I just feel like a slug. Yeah. Well, let's talk about these seminars that you got going on at the Chicagoland Fishing Expo, January 22nd through 25th at the Schaumburg Convention Center. Tell me about them a little more. Well,
the first one, reading the water, where walleyes live and why. I'll tell you what I don't want to do is I don't want to talk over anybody's head. So the way I kind of set my seminars up is that, if you're a novice, you're going to get something from it. You're going to be able to, because I always tell people at my seminars, we all have a walleye tool belt or a fishing tool belt. And what I'm hoping is that by the time you leave this seminar, that you are going to be able to add a couple tools in your walleye or fishing tool belt that you're going to be able to utilize this year and catch more fish and have a more enjoyable time. And but at the same time, I want to make sure that on certain tactics, I'll talk deep enough that even if you're quite seasoned angler, you're going to pull something away from it. So I try to make it like that. And really, there's a lot of different info, and when it comes to where walleyes live and why they live there. And when it's all said and done, walleyes, they have instincts, right? And Mother Nature has put in them certain things like don't use up too much energy to chase minnows. You want to use as little energy as possible to eat. So consequently, they're not going to go necessarily chase minnows in the middle of the day in a clear water lake. They're not going to go out in the middle of the current and fight that current and try to eat. They're not. There's certain things that they take advantage of. They're also opportunistic. So, so much of their life is based on spawning and reproducing and then eating. And when you break it down to some of those simplicities, and then, what I'll do is oftentimes, before I even hit the water, there's so many good apps you can use now, like a One Source from like Minn Kota and Johnson Outdoors, or it's an app on your phone that shows really, really detailed lakes and rivers. It shows all the depths and bars and structure. Another one is Navionics is another really good one. Onyx Fish is another good one. But there's a number of these apps where you can be sitting back in your recliner at home well before you hit that water or ice. And you can be looking at these lakes and saying, all right, my intent is to hit this lake like we did by Eau Claire when we had that Gold Conference, Gary. I remember looking at some of the lay of the land on that lake, and I'm like, you know what? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out like 6 good spots that look fishy. And then I'm going to maybe do a milk run. And when I say a milk run, what I like to do, especially on a new body of water, is I like to identify 6 go-to spots, and then I'll try to fish them one at a time. But I want to fish them somewhat quickly and efficiently. If I'm going to a new lake and going to a new spot, and I don't know there's fish there, I probably don't want to put out a slip bobber and just sit around and see if I get bit. I want to be a little bit more aggressive and cover water. So maybe I'll be using maybe it's a jig or a spinnerbait or a chatterbait, or, it depends on what I'm fishing, of course. But my point is I want to be able to hit that structure, hit that key spot, whatever the weed line, a bar, a point, whatever. And I want to work it and see if there's any fish there. If there's no fish, boom, I'm going to do a milk run. And when I say milk run, what that really comes from, that comes from back in the day when there used to be people that delivered milk, right? Like back in the day, it was a milkman, usually not a milk woman, but if there was, great. But they would deliver dairy products. And what they do is a lot of times they had a set route. Each day they go, almost like a mail person or mail carrier. They go bang, 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 bang. They had a set route on Monday and bang, 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 a set route on Tuesday. Well, I kind of use that for a milk run when you're fishing. What I'll do is I'll identify these key spots and I'll hit spot number 1 and fish it efficiently. And then I'll go to spot number 2 and I'll fish it efficiently. Maybe I'll run into fish on spot 2. But if I don't, then I'll go to spot 3. And normally by the time you go through that routine, you're going to run into some fish. And then you hunker down and start fishing, But it's that strategy of identifying key spots and then doing a milk run. You're going to end up very successful in your fishing. And I think the other thing is, you can do your homework and figure out what are some fish, as they call them, these spots look fishy, Don't be afraid to look at the current conditions on the water. And what I mean by that is you might get on that water and it's really wavy. Well, if it's not too wavy, fish in the wavy part of the shoreline, where the waves are washing in. That's always a really good technique because the waves are stirring up the plankton and the different stuff. The minnows are going in there to eat that, plus they're discombobulated. And it's, the walleyes are attracted to not only the forage, the bait that's there, they're also attracted because a lot of times that forage is, moving all around and they don't have their wits about them. They're not as effective where the walleyes can go up and sabotage them. They're opportunistic. So fish in windy shorelines. Sometimes you can mark weed edges with your electronics, but otherwise there's times where you can see weed edges. If you're fishing bass and pike, you might see emergent vegetation. You might be out on the water and you see fish busting at the surface. You might be driving to a spot, to a point, and you're following a weed edge, just thinking, okay, I'm going to go to that point up there. And you're watching your electronics, all of a sudden, hook, 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 hook. Like, holy man, electronics don't lie. There's fish here. I don't know why they're here. Maybe I should fish them. So we talk about different opportunities to make you a better angler, a more observant angler. We talk about different fishing techniques to fish efficiently yet quickly. In this case, we're going to be talking about walleyes in this seminar. But in the other seminar, we might be talking about multi-species. So those are the kind of things that we try to talk about in our seminars. Helping anglers become better at what they're doing, wherever they are. We're going to meet them where they're at. You don't got to be a pro angler to come to a seminar like this. And we're not going to beat you over the head with forward-facing sonar. Yes, I use it. I think it's a fantastic tool and it's fun. But that's not what we're talking about. We want to talk to everybody in the seminars.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, since you are the executive director of the Lake of the Woods Tourism. So I was interviewing Kevin from the Royal Dutchman Resort this week.
Yeah.
And he had brought up the fact. Yeah. Yeah. He's awesome, right?
He's a good guy. But by the way, let me apply this. Did you know that he actually has started a whole culture on the Rainy River now?
Oh, with the whole sturgeon, everything sturgeon.
Well, yes, the sturgeon thing was really picking up steam, but he's a sturgeon expert. But what he does, so he goes out. It's so funny. He's a Dutchman. His wife is a Duchess. I think his son is called Humpty Dumpty. His pontoon boat he fishes sturgeon in, he calls that the warship. And then, of course, whenever he's out guiding people, he'll be out guiding them for sturgeon. Whenever they catch a sturgeon, he howls like heck. Ow!
Oh, so my gosh.
Everybody else doing it. So people that aren't even fishing with them, when they catch a sturgeon, they're hauling. You can hear howling going up and down the Rainy River.
That's hysterical. Dude, what fun. How fun. Yeah, he was a great interview. It was very interesting how he had mentioned, everything was walleye this, walleye that, walleye this. And he was like, that's fine because I don't know how I did it, but it became like sturgeon this, sturgeon that for me, and he really capitalized on it and he really just took it and ran with it and is doing a great, amazing job with it. So good for him.
Have you read his posts? I mean, his Facebook posts are
they're amazing.
He writes such good Facebook posts.
Yes. He and I started interacting on Facebook and eventually I was like, this is okay. And I sent him a message and I'm like, all right. And I had to do it for my personal. I'm like, this is Carrie Z from HuntFishTravel. I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous. It's time to get you on the show. And he's like, let's do it.
But he's a good guy. I mean, he's a really good guy behind the scenes.
Very personable.
Very down to earth, very authentic, and very passionate about sturgeon. I mean, he just loves them.
Yes,
he's got people,
I loved it.
His resort, Royal Dutchman, is right on the Rainy River. And he actually, this year already, they've been catching sturgeon through the ice right in front of his resort.
Yeah, the pictures that he's been sharing have been crazy. So that episode was very great, very entertaining, and I can't wait to post that one too. Yeah, this week has been a really, really fun. I don't even know how many episodes this week. I'm just stacking them. It's been a lot of fun this week, which is why I'm a little hoarse. But he had made the comment, and I guess I didn't think about it until he commented, and I was like, that's true. Of all the times I've been up there, everybody isn't up at the Ass Crack of Dawn, where he made the comment where we're down here in southeastern Wisconsin, like you're up at 3:30 so that you're out on the water before dawn to get, for the walleye bite. And then you have like a 2-3 hour window, whatever it is, where out there, it really was. You didn't have to be up at dawn. You could get up and have breakfast and then get out there and go fishing. So, and I guess my question is, so if you're traveling, whether it's say northern Wisconsin or southern Minnesota, how do you take a look at a lake and say, oh, I should be up at the, an hour before dawn to get out on the lake? Or do you look at it and say, well, I don't have to be there exactly at dawn. I can go out a half an hour after dawn or whatever,
Sure. Yeah.
because of the differences.
Yeah, no, it's really based on the water, the color of the water, the stained water versus clear water. So,
okay.
That's what it's based on. So up at Lake of the Woods and in that part of northern Minnesota, we have a lot of bog country, bogs, natural bogs. What happens is wherever your watershed is, that ultimately feeds your body of water, whether it's a river or a lake, those waters run in from lots of different feeder streams and creeks and swamp and everything else, and eventually make it into a waterway like a river or a lake, right? Well, in our area, there was that bog, we have a lot of bog area, and that bog has natural tannins in it. So the tannins naturally stay in the water so that our water is kind of that light coffee color. Very clean water, but it's stained water. It's got that color to it. That means that the walleyes and saugers bite during the day because they can sneak up on their prey and eat effectively during the day. Remember we talked about, Mother Nature. And so, but if you're in a gin clear lake, some of the Great Lakes, other lakes in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and then now with zebra mussels, there's a lot of lakes that are even becoming more and more clear because all zebra mussels do is filter water. So with those really gin clear conditions, that really changes fishing. It changes in the sense that, you are going to be better off, at least certainly for walleyes, if you're fishing either at night or in low light conditions, the first and last hour of the day. The reason for that, again, Mother Nature, walleyes aren't going to be chasing minnows in the middle of the day in a clear water lake. They're going to get tired out and hardly catch anything because the minnows will be able to get away. But when it's dark, the walleyes can see better than perch and other minnows. And they also have that lateral line. That lateral line basically have little hairs on it. And those little microscopic hairs up and down their lateral line can sense water moving one way or another. So if there's any kind of movement in the water, oftentimes a walleye will sense that through their lateral line and vibration before they ever see it visually. Different in clear water lake. In a clear water lake, they can see a long ways. But anyway, that's how you can tell. Huh. So I remember the first time I ever went up to Lake of the Woods, I was getting out there at as you call it, the ass crack of dawn, right? And but I was getting out there really early, and I remember there were some old timers sitting enjoying breakfast with a cup, with coffee in the morning, and I could hear them say, they didn't know I heard them, but I heard them say, you let those rookies get out there and get her done. We'll get out there when they start biting. And it's funny because on Lake of the Woods, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's areas where you can go right away at the crack of dawn and in the shallows, and there's a good morning bite, and but most of the fishing, little bit after sunrise. Actually, sometimes it even gets better as that sun starts rising up on the horizon because more light penetration through the stained water, through the thick ice, and through all the snow.
That's interesting. I guess I didn't realize all that, and I'm assuming that correlates too to something like the Mississippi River or even the Wisconsin River that's real muddy and dark. And I wish my dad was still alive. I probably would send him a nasty gram. Dad, all those times you had me up at 4 a.m. on the Wisconsin River talking about, we got to get up because the fish are going to bite before dawn. Whatever. Well,
and to your dad's credit, maybe he had a line of fish. Maybe he's fishing enough, right? And the other thing too is maybe there's parts of the river that were clear.
I was going to say, and I mean, on the Wisconsin River below the dam, it was always the walleye fish. They just bit 24/7. So to his credit.
Well, the other part of it too, you get out there really early and you avoid some of the crowds. You get a better spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, he just always just wanted to go fishing, period.
It's kind of cool you have that memory with your dad, though.
Oh, God. It's a shame. It's funny. And I just mentioned this to my boyfriend. I said, it's a shame that he did pass when he did, because it was only a couple of years ago that I really discovered some of these veteran, like take-a-bat fishing and things like that. And I wish I would have discovered these organizations before he passed, because these would have been great for him. And even like the Wisconsin Fishing Club, these would have been great organizations for him to get involved in, because half the time the man would show up at my house bored And I'd get a text at work and he'd be like, hey, I'm at your house working on this, whatever. And I'd be like, why are you at my house? Because he's bored and he's looking for something to do. And I'd be like, go home, go find something to do. Had I known about some of these organizations.
He liked going to his little girl's house.
Yes, he did. He loved feeling useful. He liked, I remember one day we bought this piece of crap, like 1977 tri-hull. We called it the yellow banana boat, right? We bought it for like, I don't know, $800 or something off of Facebook Marketplace. The thing ran, I think, 3 times in the year we had it, right? And it had a really short, I don't know, the trailer wasn't the right trailer. I swear to God, we came home one day and he had, I don't even know, re-welded this entire trailer. And I was like, what are you doing?
Wow.
Like,
he was handy.
He is like, yeah. Oh yeah. Cause he was a welder and he worked for the city of Milwaukee and he's like, well, I just re-welded this and this and this. And I was like, thanks. He was looking for something to do and he felt useful and I was thankful for it. You know what I mean? Like, I miss that man sometimes more than anything because I bought the boat a year after he passed and it was such a shame because he would have, well, let me be clear, I never would have been able to use my boat because it would be gone all the time because he'd be like, Carrie, I'm coming over to borrow the boat. But yeah, good memories with him. He taught me a lot about fishing, but it is a shame because there are some really great fishing organizations and veterans like fishing organizations and things that he really, really, really would have enjoyed being a part of.
Carrie, if he was still around, I'd tell him to come to our veterans event. We do an event. We call it Pay It Forward. And 2026 this year will be the 13th year we've done it. We bring about 80 to 90 veterans to Lake of the Woods for a 3-night, 2-day fishing trip. All expenses paid based on the generosity of our resorts, putting up lodging and charter boats and meals. We have some sponsors, of course, but people show up, veterans show up. We purposely get both men and women. We get different age groups, different branches of the military. And, it's fun because there's some a little bit of competitive ribbing between the different branches. But when it's all said and done, people are having just a good time and they got each other's backs. And, it's fun because we have guest speakers. We get there that first night. We have a nice dinner with a guest speaker. Everybody kind of gets to know each other. The next morning, wake up, have a nice breakfast. Head on a charter boat. We use all charter boats in Lake of the Woods for this event. You get six veterans to a charter boat with a licensed charter captain. And, we take them out and we catch fish. Having the camaraderie for 2 days of fishing on a 6-pack on a charter boat. But I tell you what, it's good. It's healthy. And I've had the privilege of being on a boat where I've had, as an example, I remember a helicopter pilot from Vietnam telling us on the boat stories about some of the things he experienced in Vietnam that he hadn't told anybody since he'd been over in service.
It's crazy.
Having guys and gals break down, share, but they're in an environment where they feel safe with other veterans who understand. And it's healing, it's therapeutic, and because we always say at every paid forward event, there's magic that happens, and there's always some good stuff that happens, and it's such a good event.
It took me 30. Let's see, I was 17. I got out. I wasn't even old enough to drink when I got out. I was 20 when I got out. And it took 26 years for me to even go to my first veterans event. I didn't even know I could because I was always under the impression that you had to be a disabled veteran or you had to have a missing a limb to partake in any of these events. And legitimately it was years and years later that I even found out I qualified to go to some of these, and I didn't realize how important they were until I took advantage of. It was a take a vet fishing one, and it was the craziest experience to me. They're really important. So make sure you get me the information of that, and I'll put it in the show notes to this episode so that if anybody is listening and want information to it, they can get that information to it, or whether they just want to donate.
Yeah. Well, the website is Pay It Forward, LOW for Lake of the Woods, payitforward.org, or just Google Pay It Forward Veterans Event on Lake of the Woods. You'll find it. We have an application on our website, but it's so good.
Yeah, it's important.
It is important. Of course, Paul and Brandy Johnson from Riverbend Resort, and As you can imagine, that's one resort that participates. And, we got a whole bunch of resorts. I mean,
they're great.
And Sportsman's and Morris Point and Zipple Bay. And I mean, just a whole bunch of them that contribute. And it's so good. It's so good.
That's awesome. Thank you guys.
You talk about not having to see combat or not having to go overseas. Some veterans feel guilty about coming because they didn't experience those things. And what we tell them is, listen, you know what? You served and you had a role. And you can't help it if there wasn't a conflict going on. You can't help it if there was a conflict and they decided that they needed your services stateside. The point of it is, everybody's part of the team and everybody contributed. And the old saying, either you need the party or the party needs you. Maybe you're going to run into a veteran that needs that wants to talk, and you're the person they want to talk to. You just don't know. Yeah. But we encourage everybody to apply, and everybody's worthy. If you're a veteran, you're a veteran. Period.
That's awesome. That's so awesome of you guys. Thank you very much for doing all that. That's really cool.
It's great. Honestly. You can see I don't know if you can see the flag over my shoulder, but my dad was, so I'm the last of 9 kids. And
oh my gosh.
I know.
Holy cow.
Well, there's 8 kids in a row. Bing, 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 bing. And then there's a 10-year gap. And then bing. And that was me. So you'll get a kick out of this. I asked my dad. I said, Dad, why'd you have so many kids? He said, well, I used to go to sleep with your mother at night. I used to ask her, hey, honey, want to go to sleep or what? Well, she was hard of hearing. She said, what?
And
so
you were like,
yes. He told me, he goes, well, back in the day, we didn't have television.
You're right. We had to do something to keep us busy.
But my dad was a Marine in World War II, and he was stationed in a small island off of the island of New Guinea. And I asked him, I said, Dad, did you ever lose any battles? Still here, aren't I? Right. Then he'd talk about back in the day, he'd put on a little bit of weight, like probably like I have. And he talks about back in the day, I was lean and mean. And of course, he talks about being out there eating shit on a shingle.
Oh my God. We just introduced Aaron. Aaron is also a Navy veteran like I am, his son to SOS, and he is obsessed with it. And it is very funny because his
call it SOS.
So he went home to his mom, Aaron's ex-wife's, lives in Pennsylvania, went to his mom's for the holidays, and her dad was Army, right? And apparently he went home talking about shit on a shingle and was obsessed with it. And he came back and he was like, Papa couldn't, he was like very impressed that I even knew what shit on a shingle was.
Oh, really? That's cool.
It was great.
Well, it's funny because my dad mentioned, he goes, yeah, if I ever did it again, I'd have to at least consider being in the Navy. I go, really? He goes, well, I love the Marines, don't get me wrong. But he says, one thing about being in the Navy, you always get a dry bed and a hot meal.
That's true. Very true.
That,
very true.
Compared to being out in the jungle and,
Very true. We are the ultimate Uber driver. We are. What fun. Well, that's so cool that you guys do that event. I'm going to have to check that out and look into it a little bit. Maybe
if you want to come
see what's going on.
Gary, you're a veteran and
it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it'd be a nice opportunity for you too. You could come and do a podcast with some of the veterans that we have.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
We've had so many cool things. I mean, we've had 102-year-old veterans come, and
that's so cool.
This one gentleman his name was Jack, and he actually went fishing with his uniform on.
Oh,
he was 102.
Wow.
And he was part
That's
of the.
Crazy.
I'm gonna mess up the name, and maybe you can help me. But I think it was in France, some famous battle of the Tortuga or I'm not sure.
I'd have to look it up.
He was,
Aaron would know. Yeah,
a special guy. We've had so many special people. I mean, we had one of the things that I remember is there's an organization called Patriot Assist Dogs, and it's just so touching because these people they're trained to go to like a shelter, and they can go through these animals, these dogs in the shelter, and they can figure out which personalities might be best for a companion dog. And they pick that dog up and then they train it for like almost a year where they have the dog in their home. It's their pet. And they train this dog to be a companion dog or a service dog. And after about 13 months, they gift it to a veteran.
Wow.
So imagine like raising your kid for 13 years and training them and then giving it to a veteran. So a lot of times what they'll do is, in order to kind of ease that burden, they already have another puppy in the pipeline that if I give my dog up to a veteran that I've just trained, I get another puppy coming in, so the hurt isn't so bad. But I just thought to myself, what a loving thing to do. And people that have service dogs, they'll tell you. I remember one guy told me, I'm telling you, I would have been dead 4 times over if I wouldn't have this service dog. This dog has saved my life over and over. It's just really cool. You know? And that's one story out of hundreds,
Yeah, I know. So I just looked it up. I bet you he was talking about the USS Tortuga, which is one of those, you always see the ships that have all the World War II, have all the guys on them, and then they beach, and then they all get off like onto the beach.
Sure.
So
that definitely could have been it.
I bet you that's what he was talking about.
Plus, I'm not a historian, so
a dock landing ship. Yep. No, it's okay. Because I was like, I don't know that I'm familiar with that. And then, so I bet you that's what he was talking about, because that's, you always see that in the movies, and I would be willing to bet that's what he's talking about. That's insane. And that's insane because the odds of surviving is probably pretty slim.
Yeah.
So I can imagine some of the stories just heart-wrenching and moving and just insane. I can't imagine a dry eye sometimes.
The old saying, freedom isn't free. And when you're part of an event where you have the privilege of rubbing elbows with people that have experienced things that nobody should have to experience, we had one gentleman with us who, that movie Sniper, American Sniper.
Mm-hmm.
He was the actual, what do you call the assistant to the snipers? The person that helps the sniper. There's always somebody.
Oh, the one that always checks the air and the wind
and watches.
I don't know what they're called, but
he's looking around, protecting his back. But anyway,
he was that guy.
He was the actual real. He was Kyle's actual assistant, whatever you call that, whatever that name is.
Oh my God!
In real life, and so he talked about some of the different stories, and he talked about how he himself was a sniper. He talked about the way he worded it was, he would be able to go into a situation with bad people, and he'd be able to neutralize or equalize the situation very quickly as a sniper.
Holy cow!
And he
That's
talked about
insane.
He talked about how he would actually, he's made since he's been out of the military, he keeps his marksmanship up. In fact, I think he works for one of the gun companies, and I think he's made I can't remember if it was 1.5 mile shot. It's so far that you have to take into account the curvature of the earth, and you pull the trigger and you get up, and the spotter's like, hit. Really? Okay, good. But just again, so many good stories and so many interesting.
That's crazy.
Everybody's got a story, right?
That's nuts. Yeah, Chris Kyle. That's nuts. That's so cool. Do you ever go to SHOT Show?
I haven't gone to SHOT Show, no.
Some of the stories that come out of there, because they always, a lot of those gun manufacturers and stuff, they have a lot of the Purple Heart recipients and stuff as representatives and brand ambassadors and stuff like that. Some of the stories that come out of there, I can admit, man, we're so far off topic. Fishing, it's not even funny, but that's okay. We should circle back. We will do a part 2, y'all.
Sorry, Carrie.
Damn it, Dad. This all started with the Wisconsin River. We'll circle back with that because I think we need to do a part 2 on this, talking about veterans events. I feel like an episode about veterans events probably, and we could have you on to talk about that event and maybe have some of the guests that have attended. I think would actually be a pretty interesting episode. So
yeah, it'd be cool. We just had a guest speaker who he had 3 Purple Hearts.
But oh my God.
Because he got hit by a mortar on the head, he only remembers 2 of them.
Holy cow, that's insane.
I know. His name is Jerry, and he and his wife fished with us last year. In fact, if people look up Paid Forward on Midwest Outdoors TV, we actually filmed a Paid Forward where Jerry and his wife are fishing on the boat with Greg Jones and myself. And anyway, I won't go off anymore on that. But what a cool deal.
Yeah, we'll have to, like I said, we'll put a pin in that because we'll have to do a follow-up episode with some of these little tendrils because I think that would be a really interesting episode. But we'll circle back because we're already at like 45 minutes. We'll circle back, and normally I keep it to like 28 minutes.
Up, isn't
it? Right. So let's circle back to Chicagoland Fishing Expo. We went over these seminars. We went over some fishing tips. What else would you like the listeners to know why they should attend?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, as far the one seminar was talking about, reading the water. The other one is Midwest Lakes to Lake of the Woods, techniques that travel. And we're going to talk about walleye techniques that some basics of walleye fishing. We're going to cover some techniques that anywhere you fish, these are tried and proven techniques, but we're going to not only talk about the technique, but how to use them effectively. It's the little things that make the big difference, especially in fishing. And we're going to cover some of those things. So it's just, again, it's another seminar to make you a better angler. As far as the Chicagoland show goes, I'll tell you what, it's a cool show. One of the reasons I like going to Schaumburg is, number one, you're in the northwest suburb of Chicago, but it's free parking. You're not in the heart of the city, so you don't have all that traffic. It's a beautiful area. It's a safe area up there. It's actually at the Schaumburg Convention Center, which is right where a big, beautiful hotel is, and it's a Schaumburg Renaissance, actually. So they have a great big area. They do these shows, and it's very nice. Man, you'll see destinations from U.S. and Canada, even overseas. You have people that represent destinations like myself. You have actual resorts that are there from all over the Midwest. You have tackle companies. You have a whole bunch of vendors from musky fishing. Some are making their own tackle and selling tackle. I know somebody right across from me makes jigs for the Detroit River, specifically for the Detroit River. And of course, you can use them other places, but they're very unique. You have boats there. One of the guys there, they call him the pickle guy. They got a great big display where they got all these homemade pickles, all different flavors, and they are good. I mean, normally there's a real long line there to get those pickles. It's just awesome. A neat show, and it's not too big, it's not too small. It's just fun. You're gonna have some of your people in the fishing industry there. A lot of seminars, by the way. I'm giving seminars, but there's a lot of anglers giving seminars, and so if you check out that the website. Lot to see, a lot to do, and it's just a fun event. It's really very popular.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to be walking around the show, and I'm going to have a backpack full of t-shirts, HuntFishTravel t-shirts that I'm going to be giving away. So if you guys see me, if you're watching this episode and you see me at the Chicagoland Fishing Expo, stop, say hi, and if I have a t-shirt in your size, I'll be giving them away free. So because I have a plethora of them, and I got one with your name on it. I got to get it. I got like 3 crates of them. I got to get rid of them, and I don't want to ship them off. So
nice.
Shipping's expensive. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give them away at expos. That's what I'm going to do. If you see me, say hi, and we will give you a free t-shirt. So I hope to see everybody at the expo. And this has been a really fun episode. It's been good catching up with you, Joe, and we will see you in just
catching up too. Yeah, we
we
go off in a lot of tangents, but that's because we're having fun. And it's also neat that we've gotten to know each other so well. And we come from different Wisconsin, Minnesota, but we have so much in common too. And that's the fun of it. And even the veteran thing we touched on a little bit. I sure appreciate your service and what you've done. And for people that don't know, Carrie is has another career very successful in that own right, but then she does this as well, and she's really developed a great reputation. She's won awards for her podcast. And, really does a nice job. Yeah, well, you have, and it shows.
Thank you. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. I'm coming up on 2011, so I guess this is my 15th year actually doing podcasting. Yeah, and I think I've known you for at least almost as long, because the first Cast and Blast was, I think you were at the Deadwood one, weren't you?
No, I'll tell you, I've been with Lake of the Woods Tourism just a little bit over 14 years. So I bet we've known each other for about that long, because I got involved with the Gallo as soon as I became involved with Lake of the Woods Tourism.
Yeah, so we've known each other a long time.
Yeah,
that's the best part about the podcast, about being an outdoor communicator. Sometimes the friendships and the relationship. A lot of people are always like, oh, well, don't you have like friends or whatever that you go out, after work, go have a drink with or go whatever, hang out with? And I'm like, not really. All my friends live in other states.
Yeah.
No, I see my friends once a year. at trade shows.
It's
but
fun,
it's true.
For people that don't know AGLOW, it's Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers. So what it is, it's an organization that brings together people that do outdoor media, and it's we call it Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers. That's the old name, and we just don't want to change it. But the fact of the matter is, we're talking about professional outdoor communicators of all rights, everything from podcasts to digital media to writing books to writing articles to blogs to, you name it, right? And then on top of that, so you bring in the outdoor communicators in, you bring in the outdoor companies in, you bring in some of the top leadership from outdoor conservation organizations like ASA, American Sport Fishing Association, Ducks Unlimited, National Wild Turkey Federation, and I go on and on. NSSF, Delta. And so you bring in, and then of course outdoor destinations. I kind of double up as outdoor media and outdoor destination. But when you bring all these folks together, they all need one another, and magic happens. And some of the talent that we get to rub elbows with. I'll be at a, there's always cocktail receptions, free cocktail receptions going on at AGLOW. It's kind of part of the culture. You have your meals and your good seminars, and you go in the field wherever the seminar, the conference is at, and get to hunt and fish and enjoy that area and share information about it. But then at night, they always have from 9 until midnight, they have a kind of a reception that
happy hour
destinations will put on, and they have open bar, and usually have some nice food just for a late night snack if you're hungry. And you rub elbows with people. You meet somebody new, you'll be talking to them. It's like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a vice president for Toyota. Really?
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's interesting, and it's cool. Yep, cool. All right, Joe. Well, I will let you get back to your evening. Again, I thank you so much for coming on the show, and we will see you in just over a week.
Sounds good, Carrie. I look forward to seeing you. Double X or double X?
Okay.